Hi everybody, my name is Mark Story and I'm going to be your lecturer today. I'm called a distinguished lecturer, but I'm not sure really how distinguished I am, but I'm going to let you guys discover that on your own after you see this and read the lecture. The purpose of this is to really introduce you all to a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is the influence of blogs and how you measure them. But also to introduce myself, because I'll be returning to teaching in the spring semester. So beginning this January, I will be reintroduced to UMUC. And as a little bit of a background on me, I'm currently the Director of New Media at the Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C., which, for those of you who are overseas, is the financial regulatory body in the United States. I've been there about 3 years, and prior to that, I guess the 15 years prior to that, I was on the agency side in terms of public relations and public affairs. I worked for a variety of agencies. The most recent one was Fleishman Hillard in Washington, D.C. As for my teaching experience, prior to this I taught at Georgetown University, where I created a class called The Intersection of Online and Offline, which was a course in online public relations. And prior to that, I was actually a TA at UMUC, which is where I got my master's degree way back in the day before they had online and distance learning. So that was some time ago. And about today's lecture a little bit and the accompanying PowerPoint slides. I'll intro them a little bit, but I have listed several questions throughout, as well as a discussion guide at the end, and I really encourage everybody, to the extent possible, to try to be involved in the discussions in the conference, because I'll respond as much as I can, but I love to engage people in a conversation and sometimes a debate about the issues. So why does reputation management in blogs, which is today's topic, why does it matter and why is it important? I have my own blog. In fact, I have two, and everybody's a publisher now, because on WordPress in 3 minutes you can be up and running on a blog, and there are some incredibly influential blogs where people get their news, like the Huffington Post or Red State. And more importantly, blogs are now driving a lot of print coverage and a lot of online news coverage. So I think that's critical. So anyway, there's really three things that I hope that you can take away from this lecture. Number one, if you want to influence public opinion, especially in the blogosphere, you have to look at establishing and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships in the online environment. That's the core of public relations, and the more you engage in conversation, the better it is. And I encourage people to think about communications in the old way versus the new way. And the old way was kind of the inverted funnel, and there were very few people at the top of the funnel, and they would produce conversations which would then spread out to kind of the masses, and that's the inverted tunnel analogy, and that doesn't work anymore. What I encourage you to think about, and how I think conversations are happening now in the blogosphere and elsewhere, is think of yourself in the middle of a tornado or a wind tunnel, whereby the conversations are swirling around you, and that's what's different. Top-down, one-to-many conversations actually don't work really well. What works is understanding that you are in the middle of a debate or a conversation about your issues, but you're in the middle of it. It's already taking place, and they're swirling around you. So when you're in the middle of that tornado or in the middle of that wind tunnel, sometimes the best you can do with the conversations that are happening around you is to participate in that debate or participate in that conversation, or sometimes kind of stick your hand out and redirect the wind. But the wind, the debate that's happening about your organization, your executives, your issues, that's already taking place. So that's something that I think is important to keep in mind as well. The second thing that we're going to talk about is how you measure the influence of a blog. It's something that's hard to do, it's hard to quantify. It's about relationships, mutually beneficial relationships, and measuring relationships is something that's very, very difficult. And that's why the title of the book that I encourage people to read, Katie Delahaye Payne's Measuring Public Relationships, if you notice in the title, It's not measuring public relations, but measuring the relationships themselves. And that takes us through to the third point, which is outcomes, outtakes, and outputs. And that's something that I introduce in terms of how you actually can quantify and measure the impact of what's happening in the blogosphere. So this lecture will be up for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. I'll be as active as I can in the debate. I'm looking at trying to establish kind of virtual office hours where I can chat with people one-to-many or one-to-one, and I can actually become part of that wind tunnel and talk to you all. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to do this. I look forward to chatting with you all and engaging in debate and discussion about this lecture. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the spring semester. So thanks so much, and I'll see you around.